the Genesis account, all humanity sprung from Noah. That means every human being goes back to Noah and his sons. So that means when the earth was scattered, they would have known about God and God's revelation from Noah and his three sons. What happened is, in time, they took the revelation that was made known to them. They then embellished it, watered it down, twisted it, added to it, took away from it, which is why you have all over the world, in all cultures separated by oceans, thousands of miles, and they didn't have email, rapid transit. In all cultures, you have two stories in common: a flood story and a family surviving, and God's coming down, visiting mankind, cohabiting with humans, siring children, and giving them advanced knowledge that otherwise they would not have.
Yes.
Where did that come from?
It came from an original source. It came from God and his people.
It would have came from the survivors of the flood, but as they scattered, they took that revelation, that knowledge given to them, and then they embellished it, added to it, subtracted to it, twisted it, and changed the names. And then they started attributing those actions to the gods and goddesses that had enslaved them as punishment for their rebellion at the Tower of Babel. Because the story of Genesis 11, the Tower of Babel, is this: that because mankind, speaking one language, united against God to defy his command, God now made sure that mankind would never agree to defy God in unity. So he confounded their languages. So all individuals that spoke the same language formed communities and scattered. So as they scattered, another punishment that God brought upon them is that these rebellious demonic beings would now rule them to their shame and humiliation and oppression. This is why in Daniel 10:13, when the angel comes to Daniel, when Daniel started fasting and praying, it took the angel 21 days to arrive with the message. And then if you read Daniel 10, it's right there. He says to him, the reason why it took me 21 days to reach you, though God answered you immediately, is because the prince of Persia detained me, would not let me enter into his realm until Michael came and fought him off, leaving an opening for me to come and reach you with the message. Then he says in Daniel 10:20-21, not only will I return to fight and contend with the prince of Persia, but the prince of Greece is coming, and Michael stands with me against them. Can I ask you a question? Who
Yes.
are these princes, these rulers of Greece and Persia, who are able to see invisible spirit creatures that cannot be seen unless they appear visibly with God's permission, and are able to resist them, so that this angel was prevented from reaching Daniel on time and could only do so 21 days later, after Daniel had already been heard?
That's a good question.
Who were they? The human rulers?
They sound like spiritual rulers.
You better believe it. Not sound, they are. Because the Bible teaches in Psalm 82 and other places, the Gentiles were handed over to demons and Satan as punishment for them refusing to submit to God at the Tower of Babel. And so these demons and Satan, they're the ones that appear to them as gods and goddesses. So they appear as Zeus or Hermes. So when an atheist tells me, well, I'm an atheist too, in the sense that I reject the existence of all gods except one, I said, no, you don't know what you're talking about. I do believe these gods and gods existed, because they're the demons, they're the evil spirits, the fallen angels with Satan, who appear as aliens today or as the gods and goddesses of centuries ago, because they don't care what you believe. As long as you don't believe in the true God, they'll appear in any way you want. You want Zeus to appear? He'll appear as Zeus. You want Diana to appear? A demon will appear as Diana. Or you want aliens? Will appear as aliens. As long as they can deceive you from the true God.
I see. Yeah, I also wanted to mention, because with me, I'm Greek. In ancient Greek mythology, there's actually a parallel to Noah's flood. Now,
Yes.
of course, it adds the Greek gods, and there's even like a Greek hero character, but there is a flood story, and the Greeks are
Yes.
involved in it.
And
yeah,
and brother, let me show you the truth of the Bible. So the Bible gives you accurate history. In other words, how do we know which of these stories are the real version? Now, people think myth means something made up out of thin air. No. That's not how myth is understood historically. A myth means an historical event that is being narrated and in time becomes embellished. So myth are actually based on historical events, but in time, people start adding, changing, and shaping those myths. Okay. How do we know which of the myths are the actual historical version? Well, Jesus confirms the Old Testament version of these events. And because Jesus left the tomb empty and he's risen, we know on the authority of Christ, who rose from the dead, to confirm that whatever he says is truth, because that's God speaking to us, and he confirmed the Old Testament as true sacred history. Then we look to the Old Testament version of these events to then filter all these other myths and their embellishments. So, point being, we know the character's name is Noah. We know his family survived. We know it's the God of Noah who is angry with the world and destroyed it. So when I read in these myths that it was Enlil, Enki, the Sumerian myths, Anu, they were upset because the humans were making too much noise and they wanted to bring silence so they could rest. So they brought a flood. Okay, well, we know it wasn't Enlil, Enki, Anu, the Anunnakim, and the survivor's name wasn't Utnapishtim. That's in the Sumerian Gilgamesh epic fairy tale. But we know it was the true God, Jehovah, the triune God, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. And Noah was the one who found favor. And the reason why God destroyed the earth wasn't because humans were too noisy and got the gods upset and they couldn't rest. It's because of their sin and wickedness, and because of mixing in with angelic host. In other words, because of the influx of the sons of God, angels, coming in and having sex and corrupting human seed, polluting human seed, God decided to purify the earth of the wickedness, immorality, and the corruption and the influx of angelic hosts, impregnating human beings, corrupting human seed, so that they were no longer siring a pure human race, with the exception of Noah's line, which was preserved untainted and pure from angelic contamination. That's why it was destroyed. Okay, now what's my point? Coming back to the issue. Is it ironic that in Greek mythologies, you have the gods doing what Genesis 6:2-4 said these rebellious angelic beings did, getting
Yes.
women pregnant?
Yes, I have often thought about that. The Bible, from a Jewish and Christian perspective, it tells us what these so-called gods and goddesses are. They're fallen angels, and who came to the
Yes.
world to,
So what
yeah.
I'm trying to get at, brother, Zeus, though his name is not Zeus, there is a being, an evil spiritual being, who appears as Zeus and gets women pregnant. Now, if you ask me, who do I think Zeus is? I think it's Satan who is Zeus. That Satan is appearing as Zeus to the Greeks, Jupiter to the Romans, and Baal to others. So I really think Satan is behind Zeus. One of the reasons why I think that, I'm going to blow you away. Are you ready? Revelation 2:12-13.
And to the angel of the church in Pergamos, write, these things says he who has the sharp two-edged sword. I know your works and where you dwell, where Satan's throne is. And you hold fast to my name and did not deny my faith, even in the days in which Antipas was my faithful martyr, who was killed among you, where Satan dwells.
Wait, where does Satan dwell? He doesn't dwell in hell. He dwells on earth. But where? What location?
Where Antipas was.
And what's the name of the place? You just read it. You just said it even in Greek with the Greek accent. Pergamos.
Pergamos.
The reason why, get any good commentary that gives you the history of the time. During the time of John's writing, Pergamos or Pergamum became the capital of emperor worship, where the emperors were worshipped as gods, and a huge altar to Zeus was built. Is it a coincidence that Satan
Wow.
takes residence, resides, and places his throne from where his base of operations are being conducted in Pergamos, which became the capital of emperor worship, and a huge altar to Zeus was built? Because what is one of the signs of being demonized, being filled of Satan, controlled by Satan? Claiming to be a god, demanding others to worship you as such. Remember the lie in Genesis, you shall be like God?
Yes.
So the fact there's a huge altar to Zeus there, and the fact that the emperors are claiming to be gods in human form, which is the first lie of Satan to Adam and Eve, you shall be like God, shows me that Satan taking his residence there and having his throne there, his base of operations there, that he's the one appearing as Zeus. And this is further confirmed by Paul's own writings in 1 Corinthians 10, 19 to 21. Because there, if you go to 1 Corinthians 10, 19 to 21, he says that the pagans, the Greeks, especially at Corinth, when they sacrificed idols, the idols are nothing, but they're sacrificing to the demons attached to those idols. So according to Paul, the idols represent demons. Behind every idol is a demonic force, a demonic entity, a demonic power.
I see.
So you're offering to Zeus, but Paul is telling you, no, that's not Zeus. That's a demon pretending to be Zeus to deceive you into worshiping him.
Yeah. Wow. Sam, this is amazing because I just from like a Christian understanding, I already knew that the Greek gods and goddesses are demons who tried to deceive people. But I never really put that together, that Satan, manifested as Zeus to the ancient Greek people.
Of course.
I'm wondering how my Greek neighbors would react.
Oh, yeah, they'll be upset. Because remember, it says Satan appears as an angel light, and angels can change their shape. So he can appear human, he can appear as a woman, he can appear anything, he can appear as an alien. And another thing that connects aliens. Now, the evidence seems to be staggering that aliens exist, but it doesn't mean they're extraterrestrials. Even Michael Heiser, who's a very cautionary and careful scholar. I mention Michael Heiser because people don't know that Michael Heiser is one of the leading experts on UFOs, on aliens, right? He wrote a book called The Facade. Now, Michael Heiser, and there are others. In fact, I keep forgetting their names, but you'll find them. The two leading UFOologists were not committed Christians. After spending countless years interviewing people who claim to be abducted or encountered aliens or other phenomena, they have come to the same conclusion independently of one another. They say they are not extraterrestrials. They're from another dimension, and they are evil and intend harm. In other words, demons. So the evidence seems staggering that aliens do exist, but they are not extraterrestrials. They are demons. In fact, some people even claim that when they invoke the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, the aliens disappear, almost as if an exorcism is taking place, just like what happens to those who are demon possessed. So I am convinced aliens exist, but I believe they're demons. It's Satan and demons appearing as extraterrestrials, because they'll appear in any way, any shape, any form you want, you like, if it will accomplish their goal of bringing you away from Christ and damning your soul to hell. They don't care. They just don't want you to know the true God and accept the true word, the Bible, and the true gospel.